To upgrade or not to upgrade? That is the question. So, Apple announced the iPhone 13 and the 13 Pro models the other day. And there's some pretty interesting developments, camera, photography, and video wise. In fact, most of the upgrades fall into those categories. So if you're not a photographer and you have an iPhone 11 or a 12, I don't know if upgrading is something you want to do at this point. You'd have to make your own mind up. Certainly the camera in the regular Pro 13 has been upgraded since last year's 12 model, and the battery life is better. But if you are a photographer or videographer and you use your phone a lot for that, there's some intriguing advancements in the 13 Pro models. First thing is that they have unified the camera module across the Pro and the Pro Max. On last year's 12 Pro models, there was a difference between the Pro Max's telephoto camera and its wide camera when compared to the standard 12 Pro. So the telephoto camera had a 65 millimeter equivalent f2.2 lens, while the regular 12 model had a 56 millimeter, I believe, f2 lens. So you lost a little bit of aperture, but you gained focal length. And on the standard wide camera, the 12 Pro Max had a larger image sensor and sensor-based image stabilization, where instead of moving lens elements to stabilize the image, they move the entire sensor. This year, no matter which of the Pro models of the 13 you get, whether it's the regular 13 Pro or Pro Max, you get the same cameras. And the advances have been that they've made the telephoto camera a 77 millimeter equivalent rather than 65 on the Pro Max from last year. This is closer to an actual portrait length lens. In general, an 85 millimeter equivalent lens is what you use for portraits. It gives a very flattering effect. 77 millimeters is close enough. In fact, I found that 65 millimeter lens on the 12 Pro Max worked well for portraits. You had to be a little bit further away and maybe crop a little bit, but it worked okay. So that's nice. However, going to 77 millimeters, you had to give something up, so it is now an f2.8 lens rather than f2.2. So you're giving up some light gathering ability. The new faster processors and so on, it may not make a difference, but we'll see. Both the Pro and the Pro Max on the 13, the iPhone 13, have the same wide camera. And the lens now is an f1.5 millimeter lens, and the imaging sensor is larger. It has larger pixels, 1.9 microns as opposed to 1.7 microns in the Pro Max from last year. So those are really nice advancements, and it's nice that you don't have to make the choice of getting the Pro Max to get the better camera system. Really, the only reason now I can see that you'd get the Pro Max, I think, is because it has better battery life, obviously, as a bigger battery. The other thing that they have done with the Pro level cameras is given them better ultra-wide cameras. The better... I don't know if people know this, but previous ultra-wide cameras didn't autofocus. They were fixed focus lenses. So, when you tapped the screen and got that little focusing box, it wasn't for focusing, it was for adjusting exposure. So they've added autofocus. They've made the lens much faster. It's an f1.8 lens, I believe. Let me check. Yeah. So it's a 6-element f1.8 lens. It autofocuses, and that means it has the ability to focus down to 2 centimeters from the subject. 2 centimeters is under an inch. An inch is An inch is 2.54 centimeters. So we're talking about, what, 2/3 of an inch? That's going to give you the ability to get some really interesting close focus macro type shots. The other really cool thing, and they put this on all of the iPhone 13s, is the cinematic mode in video. This is similar to the portrait mode that already exists, that allows you to get blurred background even with these little tiny cameras, which would have focus depth really deep in an image. And on the 12 Pro Max and the 12 Pro with the LiDAR sensor, it worked very, very well. So in cinematic video, it does the same thing. It doesn't use a LiDAR sensor. It uses actually 2 lenses to build a depth map. But if you saw the launch, you know that it will automatically change focus depending on who's facing the camera. So if there's 2 people and somebody enters behind me and I turn, the focus will shift to the person coming in to their face. What's really neat about it is that you can change that later. If you go into iMovie or Final Cut Pro, you're going to be able to change the focus just like you can with portrait mode now. So right now, after you've taken a photograph with portrait mode and you go into photos on your phone or photos on a Mac, you can actually even turn it off, get rid of it completely, or you can adjust how much is in focus. So being able to do this after the fact is just great. I don't know if people remember the Litro camera that they tried to market several years back. It was this big camera with multiple lenses so that you could change focus after the fact. And now we have these relatively small devices that do this. It's pretty cool. Another photography feature they've added are what they're calling photographic styles. So dedicated cameras have similar things. They're called picture styles or photo styles. And for instance, the Lumix G9 I'm filming on, you can set it to natural, vivid, scenery, standard. Natural for photography is a flat profile. You can also use that for video. And that's what I shoot with because it does give a natural look, and also it's a relatively low contrast profile, so you can still adjust things after the fact without a lot of danger of any artifacts cropping up. It's not as good as shooting raw, but it's nice to have that ability. Well, this new photographic styles that they're putting in the iPhone 13 will have built-in profiles just like this, but you'll be able to customize them as well. And that's similar to a camera as well. I can go in and I can actually adjust how much contrast each photo style on a Lumix camera has, how much contrast, how much saturation, and so on. So hopefully there will be a way to lower the contrast to give us a flat image for the times when we maybe want to have the ability to do some image adjustments later, but we don't want to take an Apple ProRAW image, which is a 25 megabyte file and huge. You know, if you're just putting something on Instagram and you want to put filters on it, why shoot ProRAW? So again, I think if you're a photographer, these are really interesting advancements and upgrades. I think if you're not a photographer, you know, one reason to upgrade I could see is the better battery life that all of these models have. It varies. The 13 Pro Max has 2.5 hours more battery life than the 12 Pro Max. And frankly, I sometimes charge my 12 Pro Max every other day. There's times if I'm not using it a whole lot, it doesn't need to be charged in the evening. So having another 2.5 hours, not sure how much that difference is going to make to me. But that is kind of nice, not having to worry about running out of juice. Am I going to upgrade? I am going to wait until other people buy the 13 Pro and Pro Max and watch the reviews. I'm not one of these folks who has to have things right away, and so I'm not going to pre-order. I will want to have a look and see how good all of this stuff is in actual fact. And if it makes sense to upgrade, I will, because I will get a fair amount of trade-in value for my 12 Pro Max if I decide to go to the 13 Pro. And the only decision that I do have to make is whether I'm going to get a Max or a regular 13 Pro. And again, having a smaller phone might be nice. I've kind of gotten used to the big phone, and the battery life is great. So we'll have to see when the time comes. So, what are your thoughts? Do you think these are worthy improvements? Do you think they're just tech fluff? Let me know in the comments. Please like and subscribe. Working on another video that's going to be up shortly after this one. So stay tuned. I'm Todd Banner, and I will see you next time.